Chapter 36, Embers Rekindled. It was a week before Ethan dared to reach inward again, and when he finally did, he was more afraid than he had been in front of the rig. He had put it off. Through the days of recovery, the carrying home, the tears, the slow return of strength to the small body, he had not once reached for the coal, and he had told himself it was because he was too weak, because the channels were too torn, because the body needed to mend first. All true. But underneath the true reasons was the real one, the one he had not wanted to look at. He was afraid of what he would find. He had poured everything out on the water, every thread of 5 years' patient growth, scraped the vessel to nothing and torn the channels carrying a flood they were never built for. What if it was gone? What if the price of saving his father had been the power itself? What if he had burned away, in 4 seconds, the one true weapon he had against the tide, and left himself an ordinary man again, foreknowing and helpless, facing 2027 with nothing but a map? For a week he could not bear to find out. And then, one night, strong enough at last, he made himself go still in the dark and reached down behind his breath toward the place where the coal had lived. At first there was only the void, and his heart sank into it. The scraped emptiness was still there, the cold hollow where 5 years of warmth had been, aching faintly with the memory of the overdraw. He reached into it and found nothing, no ember, no thread, no banked warmth answering his attention, and for one long, terrible moment Ethan believed his fear confirmed, that he had spent not just the power but the capacity for it, that the saving of David Cole had cost him the road to everything else. He had kept his father, and lost his only means of keeping anyone through what was coming. The trade had been worth it, he did not doubt that, would never doubt that, but the loss of it, faced in the dark, was a cold thing all the same. He did not give up. Of course, he did not give up. He had grown the power once from a single hair of light, alone in the dark, on nothing but patience. If it was gone, he would grow it again from nothing, however long it took. So he stayed still and reached deeper past the aching hollow, down toward the very bottom of himself. And there, deep down, far below where the old coal had ever sat, something stirred. It was not the coal. That was the first thing he understood, and it stopped his breath. It was not the small banked warmth he had grown and lost. It was something else, something deeper and wider and new. The overdraw had not destroyed his cultivation. It had broken it through. He felt the shape of it slowly, with a dawning wonder that pushed back the cold. The wall, the year-long wall that had stalled him, the barrier he could not forge past with all his patient practice, was gone. Shattered. When he had forced the flood of ether out through the unforged channel on the water, under a need too great to be refused, he had not merely emptied himself. He had torn open the very path the wall had blocked, carved the deep, true channel in a single violent instant that calm practice could never have managed. The vessel that had been packed full and stalled was now connected, through the forced-open channel, to a far larger space below, a deeper circulation, a room beyond the room. The emptiness he had felt was not the absence of power. It was the size of the new vessel, vast and unfamiliar and waiting to be filled, where the old one had been small and full. He had not fallen. He had climbed. The saving of his father, which should by every measure have been the end of his cultivation, had instead been the breakthrough he could not achieve any other way. The wall broken not by patience, but by sacrifice. the first realm's ceiling torn open by an act of love and desperation on a flooded road. And the faint stirring deep down, far below, that was the new thing beginning. Not the recovery of the old coal. The first faint kindling of something the next realm's road, the deeper circulation his blind years of scratching had always reached toward and never found. The overdraw had done in 4 seconds what 5 years could not. It had set his feet on the road past kindling. Ethan lay in the dark and felt the changed shape of himself, and the wonder of it ran cold and bright through all the scraped emptiness. He understood now, a thing he had not understood before, a thing that perhaps no one in the long age of the veil had been positioned to understand, and that he filed away as the most important lesson of his whole second life so far. The breaking and the building are the same act. He had thought of the overdraw as pure cost, pure loss, a price paid. It had been those things. But it had also been the only thing that could break the wall, the flood forced through unbroken ground, carving the channel that calm could never carve. Power gathered safely in the dark had stalled. Power spent utterly in an instant of total need had broken him through. There was a principle in that, vast and dangerous and true, and Ethan turned it over in the dark, with the sense of having glimpsed something about the nature of the whole ladder he meant to climb. It would be a long mending. The new vessel was vast and empty. It would take years to fill what 4 seconds had spent, and longer to grow into the deeper space the breakthrough had opened. He was, for now, weaker than he had been in a year. A broken-through cultivator with an empty vessel is, in the moment, far weaker than a stalled one with a full coal. But he was no longer stalled. The wall was gone. The road went on. And the boy who had feared he'd burned his power away for his father lay in the dark, instead with a far larger road opening beneath him than he had ever had before bought, like everything good in his second life, at a price he had been glad to pay. The spark had not died in the saving. It had deepened. Ethan closed his eyes and reached down, gently now, into the vast new empty space below his breath, and began, ember by patient ember, the long work of rekindling a fire grown larger than before.